What's up guys? In today's video, we're going to be breaking down how to create the slow shutter zoom transition. So we're going to be using null objects in order to actually create that zoom transition. And then we're going to be creating that really smooth slow shutter effect. All right, so here in After Effects, we're going to be using these two clips in order to create that zoom transition. So for the first part, let's create a new null object and make sure it's the same length as your first clip. So when it comes to null objects, it's literally just an empty layer unless you connect something to it. As you guys can see, when I adjust the settings, nothing happens. So what we're going to do is grab the first layer and then grab the parent pick whip tool and attach it to that null object. So whatever we do with this null object has full control over that first layer. Like I mentioned, for this first part, we are going to be creating that zoom transition into the next clip. Go to the end of the null object and then go one frame back, click page up. We're going to create a scale animation, which is used in order to create that zoom in transition. So let's actually go forward one frame and then hold the shift button and click page up once. So that goes back 10 frames. We're going to keyframe the scale and then go forward one frame before the actual layer ends. And I'm going to have this really zoomed in. So I'm going to keyframe this at around like, I think 400% should be good. And then you want to bring that keyframe towards the end because we want the distance between these two keyframes to be 10 frames. Easy ease both the keyframes, turn on the motion blur. So when I play this, we have that zoom transition, but that obviously doesn't really look good right now. Like it just doesn't look smooth when we play this. So what we're going to do is go into the graph editor of these scale keyframes, and I'm going to create the graph where I grab the left side and make sure that the influence is at 100%. So that way it starts off slow in the beginning and then it animates out really fast. So now when I play that, it looks a lot smoother. But to make it look even smoother, we're going to grab these keyframes and just bring it forward one frame. So that way, when it transitions into the next clip, we have that like seamless transition, if that makes sense. So we have that first part done. Now what we're going to do is create that transition for the second clip. So let's create a new null object. Make sure it's the same length as the clip that you're going to transition into. And then of course, we want to connect it using the parent pick whip. And then open up the scale because we are creating that zoom in transition. We're going to keyframe the scale where it starts off smaller at the beginning. So let's start off at like 70%. And in order to get rid of this transparency, let's add an effect called motion tile and then just increase the output width and the height to 300. Click mirror edges. So let's keyframe the scale at the start at 70% and then go forward 10 frames for this one as well. Keyframe that back to the original value. Then easy ease the keyframes. Make sure to turn on the motion blur for this clip. Then we're going to go into the graph editor. And for this one, it's going to be the opposite of the other graph that we did. So instead of having the beginning slower, we're going to have the beginning a lot faster. Grab the right point and then just drag it towards the left so that the influence is at 100%. And then grab this keyframe right here, or grab both the keyframes and bring it back one frame. So this is what we have for the animation so far. What I'm going to do is actually grab these two keyframes and just bring it back one more frame. So that way I feel like the transition is a lot smoother and we see more of like the motion blur, if that makes sense. I think it just makes it look better. I also want it to continue zooming in as this clip is playing. So as this clip is playing, I want to keep on zooming in to our subject. So let's create another null object. Make sure it's the same length as the clip. Grab the parent pick whip from the null from before and then connect it to that new null object. Open up the scale. And in order to create a smooth zoom in animation, we're going to be overlapping the keyframes. So from this second keyframe of the null object from before, go back 5 frames, keyframe the scale at 100%, then go all the way towards the end. And then let's increase the scale so that it's like slowly zooming in. I think 125% looks good. Bring that keyframe towards the end, easy ease both of the keyframes. So now when I play this, we have that really smooth zoom animation. So that's why it's important to overlap these keyframes, because if I were to like have it right here, then it doesn't really look smooth. As you guys can see, the transition happens and then it like zooms in. So always overlap the keyframes. And now what we're going to do is create that slow shutter effect. Grab all these layers and then pre-compose them. For this pre-composed layer, let's add the echo effect. And right when we add that effect, we have this like really trippy look. So let's increase the number of echoes. I'm gonna increase this to 8 and then decrease the decay to like 0.7. Then we're gonna change the echo operator. So there's a bunch of different looks that you can go for. And in my case, I'm just gonna go with the composite and back. I feel like that makes it look the best. After doing that, let's then add an effect called posterized time. Change the frame rate to 12. and that creates that laggy look for the slow shutter effect. Just makes it look more authentic. And then the final thing we're going to do is create a flash effect so that it makes this transition look even better. Let's create a new adjustment layer. Let's make this adjustment layer 6 frames, and then make sure to have the adjustment layer right at the center where we have 3 frames on the left and then 3 frames on the right. We're going to add an exposure. So this is the effect we're going to be using in order to create that flash effect. I'm going to increase the exposure. I'm going to have that pretty intense. So let's just increase that to 3. Keyframe that at the middle. Open up the keyframes and then keyframe both the start as well as the end at 0. Easy ease all the keyframes. Go into the graph editor and I'm going to create the same graph as we did for the zoom transition. So I'm going to grab the left point right here and just drag it towards the right so that it's at 100%. And then make sure to drag this one towards the left so that the influence is at 100%. And now when I play this, we have that really smooth transition. I think the flash effect just really sells the effect and makes it look a lot better. But yeah, that is all I have for this video. I really like this transition and I appreciate you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.